Welcome to Waypoint Connect. It's so great that you guys are tuned in for this episode. Rochelle, great to have you back. And I'm excited for you to share a bit about what God is busy with for you for this year.
Yes, so thanks for having me, Dirk, again. But yeah, so I'm just going to dive in. But yeah, God has called me this year to do a bit of missionary work. Maybe not necessarily practically yet, but like getting the training and stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
But this missionary work, because we all called to make disciples.
Yeah.
But then certain people, even if it's for a season, focus on that specifically. But apart from that, yours is slightly unconventional.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about that.
Okay, so specifically, and this took a lot of praying and a lot of tears and a lot of, God, I'm very comfortable in South Africa. But yeah, I've gotten the answer that God specifically is calling me to Spain, whether it is in this year or the next few years, depending on the route that I take. But it's not just a season that I'm going into, it's something that God's calling me into full time, which is requiring me to put a lot of my conventional ideas of myself aside and like just fully give myself to what God is calling me to.
And how do you, looking back in terms of where you are now, how do you see God preparing you for this? And that's hindsight now, which is 2020 vision. But looking back, how did you experience God preparing you for this?
So, funnily enough, I actually recall the conversation that I had with someone, which was in June. And we were at a church in Jeffreys, and they had a conference, and one of the members, they pulled me aside and he's like, because I had African continent earrings on, and he pulled me aside like, did you do missionary work? And I'm like, no. He's like, have you ever considered it? No. And but funny enough, that actually I think was the starting point of thinking that that's never something that I considered for myself. And yeah, just the way that God has prepared me in terms of like, I studied art. So again, not a lawyer or a doctor or something typical. And yeah, just the way that God used that to also sort of prepare me in a way of like, reaching out to people isn't necessarily just giving them a Bible, but reaching out through art and stuff is also an avenue that you can explore.
Mm.
So,
Because that's the program that you're part of,
yeah.
using art to connect with people and use that as an entry point into
Yes.
conversation about Jesus.
Yes, and also with the missionary work that I'm planning on doing, it's not just going and telling people about God. It's about creating a community for those people to develop their relationship with God.
Yeah, because that at the end of the day is what discipling is about.
Yes.
Versus evangelizing
Yes,
people,
yes.
bringing the gospel, and then you go.
Yes.
And what we want to do is share the gospel, connect that with their lives,
Yes.
and then have them be able to share that with other people.
Absolutely.
And that's what God intended us to do.
Yeah.
And I just love the fact that you're able to do that within art, which is, like you said, an unconventional
Yes.
profession.
Yes.
And in that, saying, well, God, you've led me to this. This is yours. Use it however you want to use it.
Yeah.
You be the potter.
I'm
So
just the clay.
Which is ironic since you're into ceramics.
Yes. Yeah.
And for anybody that's considering something like this, what would your advice to them be?
First of all, make sure that it's definitely something that, like, you are certain that you want to lay your life down completely and leave your comfort zone completely. I've never been further than, like, north than Pretoria. That is the limit. I've never been overseas. So, yeah, it hasn't fully sunk in yet. Like, I'm going there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so, and it's definitely, like I said, outside of your comfort zone. So, but also make sure that you have a community around you that supports you in this, and that you have spoken to your leaders and stuff, because you can't go isolated. It's going to be very difficult to adjust to that kind of life if you don't have people back home that are supporting you. So, but it's definitely like, if it is what God is calling you to, definitely invest and look into it, because we can't stay comfortable. That, like one of my favorite sayings is, God calls us beyond our comfort. You can't stay comfortable and say that you are growing and you're not reaching out to people around you. So even if it's not international, if it's locally, look into reaching out to people. So, yeah.
And I'm just thinking in terms of somebody that's listening to this and saying, thank you for saying that God needs to call you into this, because He's definitely not calling me to do that. The challenge still is, in your everyday life, how are you using that to share your relationship with Jesus with other people?
Yes.
Because we're all called to do that, not necessarily in another country and
Yes.
within that context. But where we are, our sphere of influence, we need to leverage that to bring people in a relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
So that's a takeaway for everybody. And looking back on journeying with you for the past year and a half, it's God led you into art, from art into COVID happening and start your own business, which is like kind of unconventional, and that's all part of building you as a person.
Yes.
What you need, the skill set that you need in terms of being successful at this next step for you.
Yes.
So it's phenomenal, and it's a great privilege, and it's a big responsibility as well. So all the best with that.
Thank you.
If people want to stay connected with you and this journey that you're on, are you going to be engaging on social media about it, or do a blog,
Yes,
or
definitely.
Zoom in from Spain on Waypoint Connect again? What are your plans?
I'm not a person who really likes to talk about myself, but I'm guessing because, I mean, with funding and stuff, you will have to go and ask people to invest, not in you as a person, but in what God
is busy with in
Yes.
people's lives. Yeah.
So in terms of that, I'm definitely going to have a crowdfunding page and everything. So, and I will have a better online presence. My sister is very adamant that I have one, but yeah, I'm very bad when it comes to updating regularly. But hopefully, by the time this video is, I will have been growing in that sense as well.
Awesome. Rochelle, all the best with that, and thank you very much for taking the time to be with us.
Thanks for having me.
And remember, have a great week.